and welcome to IntentioKnit. Today we are doing my first monthly check-in for my yarn low-buy and stash busting year of 2026. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to link a few videos in the description. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how January went, and then I'll give you all the numbers. So January here in Norway is a very long and very cold and very dark month, and we truly had that this year. It's been so dark and so cold where I live. There's been a lot of time for knitting and crocheting, and I have been working a lot on bigger projects, so that means that I haven't finished a lot of things. Now, when I give you the numbers, I just want you to know that this is for finished projects only. I don't count ongoing projects. I think that would be sort of a little hassle to, weigh it and everything. So the only numbers that I'm giving you today is the finished numbers, and it's not been a lot in January since I have been working on two large projects that's been going for months now. But I finished a few small items, so I am going to give you the numbers for that. Let's get into a little bit more detail. Oh, and also I am experimenting a little bit about the formatting of this video, so the sort of Excel sheets might change and how I do it might change. Just a little heads up. Let's get into some numbers. Yarn in. I have a goal for this year to not buy a lot of yarn, and if I am buying yarn, it needs to be yarn that I am starting to use immediately, and preferably it will be for, just larger projects that I can't use my stash for. And I can tell you that in January I had exactly 0 yarn in. I didn't even go to a yarn store, I didn't browse online, I didn't feel any need to. I had everything I needed to work on the projects that I have been working on, and I didn't feel any desire to get any yarn at all, so that felt great. I have been starting to plan a new sweater that I'm going to make when I'm done with the one I'm currently working on. So I am planning to buy some yarn in February. I'm filming this at the beginning of February, and I will have to get some yarn then, but that's within my rules. It will be a green lit sort of buy for me. So yeah, but I am making sure that I take my time to plan, that I am happy with the color, and that I'm happy with what I'm making and what material. Is it going to hold up well in wash and everything like that. So I haven't bought any yarn in January, I haven't gotten gifted anything, so absolutely 0 new yarn in January, and I feel great about that. And I am planning for February, but that's gonna be in next month. Then we're getting to what did I use. Since I didn't buy any new yarn, the only yarn I have used is from my stash. And I'm not completely sure how I'm going to keep up and log this, but for this month it was pretty easy, so I'm just going to show you. I used 34 grams of yarn from my leftover stash, meaning, this here. That was for a pair of ear warmers, and I'll insert a picture here for you. So I crocheted that in January, and that was a much needed one. I'm very happy with that. Black goes with everything. That was 34 grams from my leftover stash. Then I also knit 2 pair of socks for donation. So this is from kind of a separate stash. It's from donations. So this means that I picked up the yarn from somewhere and I knit something from it, and then I deliver everything back. I do count it for my stash to keep count of how much have I knit and crocheted this year, but it's not something that will stay in my stash, and any leftovers will be given back. I knit 2 pairs of socks. I'm just looking at my notes. And I used 154 grams in total for those 2 pairs of socks. I will give you a picture here, but you can also watch my knitting podcast that I am doing every second week or so. So that was 154 grams of sock yarn. And then my last category for this month is returns. So this could be returns to store from having bought too much yarn. It could be return to donations, as in this case. Here I had 46 grams of leftover yarn from those 2 pairs of socks, and that got donated back. I feel these numbers are a bit on the lower side, but it is because I am doing bigger projects, so February is looking to be a much bigger month in terms of yarn usage. To summarize it, I have knit and crocheted a amount of 188 grams in January. I have returned 46 grams, and at the beginning of 2026 I had 15,442 grams of yarn. And now with these 3 finished projects I have 15,208 grams in my stash. I am going to keep count of this every month because I think it's fun to see how much my yarn fluctuates, but I need to see how the format should be, so I am going to give you how much yarn have I bought, how much yarn have I used from my stash and donation yarn and everything that's relevant for that month. And then I'm also going to give you a total number and an overview of what my total yarn stash is at the current time. Please just keep in mind, as I said, this is my finished projects only. It is both knit and crochet, but there's no ongoing projects on this sort of list of mine. That would just complicate things, and I prefer to just write down what I have actually finished. That's sort of a little motivator too to me to get the projects done, so I can include them in my little log. That worked well for me last year when I just did it privately. So yeah, that is the current amount of my stash. I'm pretty happy with how January went, even though my total stash number isn't down by much. It is still down. And I know that in February it will be a big update. I'm just these days finishing 2 big projects, so if you want to keep up, you can look at my knitting podcasts that I release every 2 weeks or so. And yeah, January was a slow month, and I'm hoping to have a good February, to have some big finished projects, and I'm hoping to start a few new larger projects too. I did notice last year that I did a lot of small projects, and this year I'm truly hoping to finish some larger projects to make things for my own wardrobe and to make that look the way I want it. And that means buying some yarn, but it also means using it immediately and returning the leftover to the yarn store. I am thinking of also keeping account of how much money I spend on new yarn, just to see how much is it in a year. I might do it, I might not. But let me know, did you like this format of the video? Is there any numbers you feel is missing? I have tried my best. But yeah, I really like keeping myself accountable, so that's the main reason for doing this video. I could just say that, oh, I didn't use that much yarn in January, let's just not film the video. But the main point for me is also showing you some realism. You know, I have seen other people on YouTube showing that they produce so many things, and well, that is great. I feel that if you don't do that, you might feel sort of a little bit down about it, but please don't. Things ebb and flow always. Life is lifing. And sometimes you do a lot and sometimes you do less. And in my case, I did finish 3 things in January, and I have been working on 2 big projects and they just didn't get done. I'm completely fine with that because I want to keep the love for this craft. I want to keep wanting to knit and crochet. And if I were to push myself a lot to make these videos, to make my knitting podcast, it wouldn't be enjoyable. So I'm trying to show you a realistic, for me, video and how I do things, and I hope it's helpful. If you also want to hop on and do a yarn low-buy or stash busting, please let me know. It would be fun to be more doing this. Thank you so much for watching. This was a shorter video, but that's just how it is, and I hope you have a great day.